In this video, we're going to discuss the fraud triangle. So the fraud triangle simply consists of three factors that when these three factors are all present in concert, there's a very high risk that fraud will occur. So let's walk through each of these in turn. So we've got incentive, opportunity, and rationalization. An incentive means that the person who's going to potentially commit the fraud has a very high perceived financial need, and it's generally something that is not shareable with other people. So they don't feel like they can just go and talk to a family member and say, hey, I need $500. So they can't talk to family. They can't borrow the money from a bank. Maybe they tried to borrow the money. They got turned down. It could be that the person has a gambling problem. It could be that they have very high medical debts and they don't believe that their family would be able to help them, or they don't want to be a burden to their family and so forth. So they have some financial need that they don't think that they can meet on their own, and so then they would turn to the fraud. But to be able to commit the fraud, the person also needs the opportunity to do so. You can't steal cash if you never have any access to cash. So the person needs not just an incentive to commit the fraud, they need to have the opportunity. And when we say opportunity, we're really talking about there's not any internal controls there to prevent the person from doing the fraud. So for example, if we just have cash laying around, if there's cash laying around, then the person has the opportunity to take the cash. But if there's some kind of internal control in place where the person is never able to access cash, then obviously they would not have the opportunity to steal the cash. So they need an incentive to steal. They need the opportunity to steal, but then they need to be able to have an attitude that tells them in their mind that, okay, it's all right for me to go and commit this fraud. So we call this rationalization or justification. What kind of attitude might somebody have? They might say, well, you know what? I'm underpaid. This company doesn't pay me what I'm worth, so it's okay for me to steal the money. Or they might say that, well, you know what? I'm really just borrowing the money. I'm just borrowing. This is a loan, and I fully intend to pay the money back. They might say that, well, the company is very wealthy. They have lots and lots of money. They can afford to lose a few $100,000. Or they might say that this is a victimless crime. It's just a corporation I'm stealing from. The bottom line is that they have to somehow rationalize or justify it to themselves, because most of the people who commit fraud are decent people, and they're not going to sit there and say, you know what, I'm a bad person and that's why I'm committing fraud. They need to be able to get in this mindset that says, okay, I'm not a bad person. It's just that in this case, because of X, Y, or Z, it's all right for me to go ahead and commit the fraud. So when someone has an incentive, they have some really high financial need, they're desperate, and they have the opportunity to access cash or something else. Maybe they're stealing materials, raw materials off their work site or something like that. They have an incentive, they have an opportunity, and then they can somehow rationalize it to themselves that it's okay for them to commit the fraud. Then there's a very high risk that fraud will actually occur.